Thanks for joining us on Coast to Coast Pest Talk.
Last time we had Adam sang us in. There was like a Bob Marley song that he was singing by the pool with his sunglasses on.
I almost wore my hat and my glasses today just to bring back the ambiance.
I think, that's a good idea.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Apparently it's 5 o'clock in Hawaii all the time.
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for tuning in to Coast Pest Talk. I'm your host, Gabe with Pest Patrol, joined here by your co-host, Andy Sinefsky with Permatech Pest Management. We have a special episode for you today, joined by our guest, Adam Holt, BCE, owner of Name Dat Bug, hailing from somewhere in Hawaii.
Yep, that would be Hawaii.
It's the undisclosed location in Hawaii somewhere in the Pacific.
Beautiful. And we're going to be talking through some of Adam's fractional BCE services, his new launching of kind of that consulting branch for him. We're going to talk through why Andy didn't include him on the BCE bracket and other fun things. So stay tuned.
It was an epic snubbing, you know?
Right.
It's like Kentucky or Duke being left out of the tournament or something, you know? So, Adam, how long have you been like full on with Name Dat Bug?
2 weeks.
Ooh, all right. All right. A glorious 2 weeks, I imagine, right?
Oof, way better than teaching. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
That's right.
And you haven't thrown in the towel yet. That's good. 2 weeks in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's luckily I was able to. I've been with, as you guys know, I've been with Pest Sense for a while now, since I think May of last year. So I contract out for them, and then I was able to secure this other client out of California back in December, and so that's been very, just blessing, across the board. And so, yeah, I'm working with them, and then hopefully that might venture into some other opportunities. I mean, they're a national account, so they've got locations all over the entire country, and so hopefully that will, fingers crossed, I can maybe connect with like a procurement manager from their company and maybe try to get other locations, which would obviously be even more of a blessing. But yeah, the teaching thing just, it catapulted me straight into this. It was just time. I've been needing the reason to do this, and here we are, Wow. But I haven't forgot about my TikTok and everything else. So it's all there. I'm just trying to bring it all into one beautiful, package. And so, for anybody listening, again, it's Name Dat Bug, D as in dog, consulting. That's my website as well, just namedatbug.com. That's all my branding for all my stuff. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook Reels, YouTube, you name it, LinkedIn, Clapper, Lemonade. I'm trying to go through all of them. There's so many options for all of your social media marketing, which we've talked about in a previous episode. And so I actually just did a really cool AI transcription of that entire podcast we did. And now it's on my website. That entire thing is transcribed out.
Whoa.
That's cool.
Yeah. So if you want to go there and see the summary for our last Coast to Coast episode 21, you can go see that on social media on namedatbug.com.
That's awesome. So we do a thing when we do trade shows, and we have like pictures of different pest organisms that we put up on a screen, and we have a little clicker to click through them, and we call it Name That Bug, so that we don't have a trademark infraction there. So.
That's right.
You can use my thing. I'll allow you to do it. I'm giving you permission. Everybody hears it.
It'll be licensed. We'll have to put a little disclaimer there. Oh my goodness gracious! Wow.
Did you say there's a social media site called Lemonade?
Lemon8.
Andy, you're on that, right? Are you on Lemon8?
I just figured Adam had a stroke and was just naming random words. Just like I don't know. There's like 40 different social media things.
Yeah, we're not going to manifest that. Take that away now.
We'll edit that out. You're good.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many of them. I don't even know how you keep up. It's got to be like a concerted effort, right? Like you see the new platform and then you have to like explore it, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Facebook Reels, I didn't know about that till a year ago. They were running a contest for like, if you come on here and you get so many views and all this stuff, you can win $1,000. So I was like, I am doing this. So I just went on and basically recycled a lot of my videos from TikTok onto Facebook Reels. And literally within 3 days, I think I posted like 80 videos. I ended up winning anybody could win the contest, but I was able to get what I needed to do to get the $1,000. And I was like, all right. And then in 3 days, I went from 0 to 16,000 followers.
Wow. Holy cow. Holy
3 days.
cow. Oh my gosh. So now you've been on a virtual book tour the last like 2 months. It's like every time I turn around, there's Adam Holt. So what have you been up to? Like, you've been on just about every podcast I can think of that's in the pest control industry, right?
I am trying. I want to be like a podcast like slut. I know that's a horrible word, but I just want to be that thing. I just want to be on every podcast. So yesterday I did a podcast with Steven, the wildlife, guru. I did that, which was just awesome. He's such a cool guy. He's very interesting. I mean, he's a total vertebrate specialist, but we talked about all the invertebrates on the vertebrates and kind of how all the PCOs need to be more concerned about protecting themselves and using PPE and just being aware of all the different vector-borne diseases that the invertebrates can bring. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's your specialty, right? For like a fowl louse or something like that. Wasn't it something like?
Yeah. So I wrote my master's thesis. I wrote a Florida field guide to bird lice, which I was talking to Steven about yesterday. And unfortunately, it never got published because I got tired of all the manuscript reviews. And I was like, F you, I'm over this. Like, I'm not going to keep going through all these reviews. So I just I finished my master's degree, never published the manuscript. However, I found it 2 weeks ago sitting up in my closet. So I do have it. I do have the ability to publish it. The challenge is right now, if I want to go back and ever finish my PhD, I don't want to publish it because I could actually use it towards my PhD if I don't publish it. So I'm kind of in that limbo with that right now. But yes, my specialty is bird lice. I'm really weird. I'm super infatuated with ectoparasites. I love epidemiology and disease transmission. And so, there's cool stuff even going on right now. I don't know if you guys have read the articles, like in Riverside, they just posted that article about the 4 rodents that actually they tested positive for the bird flu influenza.
Yeah, rats, right? It was
right.
in rats.
So rats that tested positive for bird flu, which is very interesting. And then there's the whole article about Gene Hackman and how his wife died from hantavirus, which is crazy. That's actually New Mexico. That's not California, but it's just these things are popping up. And I'm like, dude, people got to be aware. And it's very interesting enough, all the California rodenticide bans, unfortunately, are even contributing to a lot of this because they're taking away all the control that we're using for the rodents. And now we're having to come up with alternative solutions, which is turning into all of the disease transmission, escalating as well in places like Skid Row, where all the displaced population is.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. We had done something, oh my God, years ago. I don't even know if they still make the material. I think one of the manufacturers made a rodenticide that had I don't know if it was a neonicotinoid or what was in it, but it was to eliminate fleas from rodents, like rats and mice.
Yeah.
And we were using it in a test scenario at a veterinary clinic where they had a massive tick problem in their backyard. And so we did a label appropriate application for mouse control and did tick drags on that property. And we found fewer ticks after the application of that rodenticide with the flea control material. And we were guessing, we never really finished the whole project. We were guessing as, a mouse, mole, things like that are going to be intermediary hosts for a deer tick, that it could break sort of that life cycle a little bit for tick control. And it did seem to work, but I mean, it was not, let's say, controlled enough study.
So essentially, the bait that you were using for rodents was almost like a flea control you would put on a dog.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was just internal. Well, they're both technically subcutaneous internal. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now, how does a BCE factor in between what we're doing and the customer and that? Like, as a pest control operator, most of us don't have a board certified entomologist on staff. Most of the small guys.
So after this, you're signing my proposal for a BCE on retainer. Okay.
Dang.
This is recorded now. Why do you need one? You need one for a million reasons. I mean, number one, I think the most important thing is there's a lot of, especially like right now with me working with an end user, right, of a PCO, you're getting a lot more of these end users where maybe their client is coming back and saying, listen, do you have a board certified entomologist on staff? I mean, it's crazy how it's kind of coming from down the trickle, right, down the path. And so I think on so many levels, having a BCE on staff, it can help you out with even like any type of maybe like, litigation you might come across, right? Like, for instance, you might have, I don't know if you guys have had it yet, but as you get bigger, you might have it where a customer, like, let's say you're taking care of a commercial complex, right? And they end up getting bed bugs. You're not technically becoming part of the litigation, but maybe, the property manager is involved in litigation because there's a bed bug situation. So having somebody like a BCE on staff to be able to identify that, make sure and confirm that identification is correct, that's going to help you out at the very end whenever you do maybe go to litigation. Or if you have like that end user, or sorry, for you guys, it would be like whatever manufacturing, paper company you might have or something like that. And that point, having a BCE on staff can just help out with that. I mean, I try to tell people that for me, it comes across like you've got a lot more of these companies now, especially like you guys being, I call you smaller, but in Australia, you guys are the big companies, just so you know. When I talk to because Pest Sense, you know what I mean? When I tell them like kind of like where you guys are, they're like, oh man, they're big for Australia. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe you need to go to Australia. The dollar's worth a lot more anyway.
Oh my God.
But yeah, when it comes to like the kind of BCE thing, I think it's just critically important for like so many reasons, for developing trainings, especially like with you guys using AI. AI is becoming much more popular. As we well know, AI, unfortunately, just it cross-reference searches everything across the internet, right? That's what it's doing. And so at the end of the day, garbage in, garbage out, right? And so if you have somebody like me on staff, I can come in and review all that technical material for you to make sure that it is accurate, right? Because if you're not fact checking what you get out of AI, you're doing yourself a strong disservice. And I bring this up because did you guys see the post that Marcus Scruggs put on LinkedIn where we did the quiz? His boss put out the quiz.
Yeah, there were some problems in some of
a ton of problems. Did you see this?
No, what was it?
So Marcus is a boss, and I'm not calling out his boss. I'm sure his boss is great, but that company developed like a quiz through AI, and the quiz was like, here's a rodent, here's a target pest species, and here's your choices to identify it. So it was multiple choice. And Andy's looking at me like, no, and like there were probably out of 20 of them, 3 to 5 that literally didn't have the right choice.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
And there was a couple that the one that really bothered me the worst was the German roach versus Asian roach.
Oh yeah.
They were back to back, and now they're like nearly identical, an Asian roach and a German roach, and the picture, one of them had it in sort of an interior environment, the other one had it on a blade of grass. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, I can't tell from the picture. I'm going to go Asian roach on the blade of grass, right? Because they're going to be outside, know.
Yeah.
And the German roach, you're really not ever finding that outside. And it marked it as wrong, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Well, the Asian roach can actually catch flight. Typically, the abdomen's longer than the wings, so there's like the whole kind of concept there. And so, I mean, literally, it was just, I don't know. I don't remember all the ones that were wrong, Gabe, but there were literally 3 to 5, and like all the BCEs literally attacked this. There were like 10 of us that came in and were like, wrong.
It was a bunch of locusts, like a swarm of locusts came across it. Oh my God.
I think the whole point of this is that alone is proof in the pudding as to why a BCE is important, right? Yeah. If you had a BCE or a technical person on staff, and I even say sometimes even technical is not enough. Technical is great, but even a technical person, I know large companies that have technical people on staff that are not BCEs, that don't have degrees in entomology. Are they well-trained? Are they well-versed? Are they great people? They know a lot, 100%, but having that BCE on staff is going to be able to at least give you that accurate identification.
Yeah. Now, do you have an idea of, is this something that's more prone to be valuable to a company that does a lot of residential, a lot of commercial, a little of both? Is there an area where the value is greater as far as
as far as the BCE, or we're talking about?
Yeah.
I would say any and all of the above. So I'll give you a good example. When I was working for Innovative last year, right? They were using FieldWorks, their software. And so obviously you guys have heard of that. That's a pretty popular one, kind of up and rising. Not as big as Pest, as Pest Pack or, Field Routes or any of those, but they're on the rise. I think they're $5 to $10 million now. So they're doing pretty well. But I was, when I was with Innovative, they one thing that I did, because we were coming up on the mosquito season, and I noticed I was getting bit sitting at the pool right on our last podcast. I'm like, this is San Diego. They don't have bugs. They're not supposed to have any bugs. But all of a sudden, we're seeing these ankle biters on the rise, right? And so I thought, this is a good time of year to go ahead and kind of create a marketing campaign. So, of course, having the BCE and the technical background, I was able to go in, make this cool marketing campaign, maybe make like a green program, lay it out, do this cool stuff with the life cycle metamorphosis, kind of get a little technical, but not too technical, enough to try to get the message across, And then I used the marketing module on FieldWorks to basically create a campaign and send it out to all the customers they had, right? So I sent out this campaign, not kidding you, within a week, I had already made the company like $25,000 in revenue.
What's kind of, Adam, as you are launching this, and perhaps you don't know exactly what you're going for quite yet, but is there like an optimal, are you looking to have companies just like keep you on retainer, like bring you in for certain projects? What's kind of your vision with that?
Yes, to both. I love the idea. The retainer is obviously nice because I think that helps to, maintain a lot of things. But I feel like the retainer is almost like after I come in for a project, right? Come in for a project, let's work on something, and then keep me on retainer following the project. I mean, I'm fine being on retainer either way. My idea of the retainer thing was like, a lot of us in the consulting, BCE industry, typically they try to do like, I don't know, like 2 hours a month, and then you're on retainer for the 2 hours a month. And then that could be a technical bulletin. That could be for me, I bring so much to the table outside of what a normal BCE is. You know what I mean? Like when I was with Advanced IPM, we had a customer where they required a safety training every week. And so I literally, like when I got there, I sat in my office for like, closed the door for like 2 days, and I wrote 52 micro safety trainings. And so that was a plethora of things. It could have been an insect. It could have been heat safety. It could have been hazmat. It could have been annual pesticide safety training. It could have been respirator training. It could have been so many different things. And so I think a lot of companies right now, from what I'm witnessing, are missing the boat on is probably the training aspect, right? I mean, there's such an opportunity for, taking advantage of like, another company that I'm working with is Licensed. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. Have you heard of Clipboard? Clipboard and Licensed are two softwares that were basically put out by a company called Terrier Technologies. Originally, that whole thing started with Stacy O'Reilly with Plunkett's Pest Control. That's kind of where that came down with. And so Dylan and Sean O'Donnell, they're the owners of Terrier. They basically did Clipboard and Licensed. And so Licensed is a top-notch license management software, which I'm saying this now so Holly can make sure she books a meeting with me so we can get this done.
Yeah.
And Gabe, I would love to show it to you as well. And so it's not biased. It doesn't matter the size of the company. What it does is that it's got all of the categories and training stuff built out as far as like every state in the US. And so like even for your state, Gabe, it's going to be able to, if we were to add one of your techs to it, it's going to basically be able to, we would add their license, add all the categories. And then as we build out trainings, we can basically go in, and I'm getting all the trainings approved through the state as well. So I can become an approved CEU provider through any state. And so I'm building that out from that perspective as well. And so even with the company in New York, what I'm doing is I'm going to build out 12 monthly trainings for them. I'm going to get them approved through the state. And then we're going to basically have those put into the software. And then I'm going to come in and give the trainings once a month. And then basically from there, they're going to earn all the CEUs they need to basically do their license renewal.
Cool.
And that would all be virtually, right? You'd
Correct.
do the training virtually, and they could do it right. They wouldn't have to travel or go anywhere for that.
Yeah, but the software, I mean, it does other things as well. It does all your chemical and label SDS sheets. It also does WDI reports if you want to connect that to your, integrate that in with your current software system.
Wow. So what do you see on the horizon that we should be worried about or excited about as little pest control company owners?
I mean, I know, Andy, you're dabbling in the remote, sensing technology. Gabe, I don't know if you are as well, but I'm like, I feel like if you're not, you're going to be missing the boat. That's going to be huge. I definitely see if you're not going to be bringing it to the table, I could see your customer asking for it and saying, hey, do you offer this? If not, you're going to be missing the boat, because there's a multitude of reasons. I know we haven't had a podcast with us personally on your remote sensing technology, but especially with pest sense, bell sensing, whatever you're doing, Gabe, part of what it does, and Andy, what I see the benefit of it is it's going to decrease the liability for you and your company, right? I mean, if you're taking like the predictor station and you're putting it up on a wall void or a drop ceiling, we're just going to use we'll use a drop ceiling, right? Take one of those panels down, we put a thing up there. Instead of having to go up and down the ladder every time, now I've got the ability to check that remotely, right? And so I'm decreasing the amount of times they're going up and down a ladder. In California, the number one workman's comp claim was ladder falls, hands down. And so, but the other thing, think about, technician bending up and down to check a station. If you've got bell sensing, if you have any type of remote sensing technology, you're going to decrease that, right? And then on top of that, with technology, you're increasing the ability to focus on hotspot activity and focus on letting your technician increase profit and revenue for your company by focusing on that hotspot activity. there's just so many things you can do with remote sensing technology. So I think that's definitely one thing. If you're not doing that, you're going to be missing the boat for sure.
Wow.
Something else I can also help you with the Name Dat Bug Consulting.
one more thing there. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're getting about halfway through here. So I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the travesty that occurred this week on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh.
And Adam Holt was left out of the selection for the BCE bracket for 2025.
Who made that bracket, Andy? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Okay, so a little background on this, if you don't know. So, Holly and I are sitting around watching the Selection Sunday stuff for the NCAA tournament last year. And so as we're sitting there last year, we're talking, and we were talking. I don't remember who we were talking about. It was some BCE that was saying something on LinkedIn, and we were talking about them, and then we talked about another one, and they were really different. I think it was Chow Yang Lee from UC Davis had last year. Chow Yang Lee had like 5 papers drop. Like it was epic. It was like Beyonce level, like awesome, right? He had a bunch of papers. There's one on the genetics of the German roach and how it traveled across the world. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and we're talking about him, and then we're talking about someone else. I can't remember if it was like Sylvia or Shannon Sked or something like that, who does like no research, but they do like a lot of outreach and stuff like that. And we're like, oh, what if these two were pitted against each other? Who would you pick in a battle, like a tournament style battle? And so we started giggling about it, and we're laughing, and we're throwing names out there. What about this person against that person? And Holly's like, you know what? You gotta build a bracket. And so just as a joke last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick a whole bunch of, BCEs that I know out on LinkedIn or whatever, throw a bracket together and just like do a parody of this. Well, last year it just like absolutely explodes. Like everybody's like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? And so we put together a few little metrics to kind of go, okay, well, let's weight activities of people, like, a research paper counts as 10 points, and a in-person event counts as 5 points, and a social media post counts as 1 point, and PCT article counts as 5. Okay,
wait a minute. Then
to kind of weigh some things.
I have way too many social media posts.
Right. Well,
by that alone.
See, yeah, and that's the thing. It's tough because I don't know about most of those social media things, so I really just look at basically LinkedIn. My wife goes on Facebook a little bit, so we scour through people's LinkedIn histories. We look at what they've been doing, where they've been speaking, whatever, and we kind of like pick winners and whatnot. And then we said, okay, well, people wanted us to do it again this year, so we got a bunch of nominations. We threw it out there, and we got, 40 or 50 different BCEs that people are like, oh, this one's great. This one's great. So we research them all. We throw them together. And poor Adam Holt didn't make the selection committee. And here's the thing, though. When I was looking at it, I was like, I want Adam to be able to comment on this, so he can't be involved, right? You can't be a competitor if you're going to comment. So I said, you know what? We know we're going to bring him on to talk about it. So here he is. So Adam, tell me how I screwed up on this one.
So hard. Just kidding. No, I think we talked about it before, Andy. I mean, I think there is the potential of this becoming something bigger, definitely. And I think if we're going to do that, we definitely have to come up with some super measurable metrics. Yeah. I mean, it's like whenever you put me against Sylvia, I was like, that's a no-brainer. Sylvia's of course going to win. She's like she's West Coast Rodent Academy. She's like at every conference because she is what is she? Is she a rep? Yeah. I mean, she's
BASF.
I mean, there's no way I'm going to compete with her. There's just not. I mean, unless you take into account my social media posts, which I do 3 a day on multiple platforms, that could build me up, right?
Yep.
So, but I think the reality is, I think there could be some cool stuff with this. And I just, whenever I saw it last year, I was like, what is this shit? Like, this is crazy. It's fun,
Well, and if it can be fun, if it can introduce people to other people, give shout outs to people that are out there, toiling in the fields of entomology that don't get a light shined on them very often, right? Like we don't really call that out. And I think the whole industry, we appreciate what our BCEs are doing for us, because there's a lot of BCEs out there that have nothing to do with structural, right? They're in agricultural, they're in medical and forensics and whatever. And there's a very small number, really, relatively in the world, that are pest control. And so we need to give them some love.
Our next topic of when are you going to have an ACE bracket? We talked about this.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's a lot more aces out there, and yes, I've been contacted by several people that are begging for that too. And there's only so much parody writing I can do to make up pretend games.
You have to start using AI more to generate all your content. You gotta save yourself time.
Can we do like an MMA, like Ace MMA?
Right.
Yes. Now, Adam, do you remember the like celebrity death match from the 90s on MTV?
Of course, yes.
That's what we really need to do. Is like I would love to see like little claymation, right? And you'll have you'll have Adam Holt and Cassie Crudgy, whatever, fighting it out. That would be great.
Kick my ass. Let's not even talk about that.
Oh my God. Well, and that brings up some of the thought though. Like a Cassie, right? Really involved internally with Rentokil Terminix.
Right.
Does a lot of social media. I don't know that she necessarily does a lot like where Sylvia's doing training classes directly to us out, as the PCOs.
I mean, maybe not to the PCOs, but she is the director of training for the entire Rentokil Terminix Corporation. So I'm sure she does quite more than we can even imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, that's internal.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, are we only looking at external stuff?
It's just harder to know and measure.
That part's fair. Yeah, I mean, that part's fair. So I guess it has to be at least something we can have access to the content to. You know what I mean? So that part
that's what I'm thinking. It would have to be stuff that's out and available. That's why I'm thinking articles that are written, training that's done, social media that's content going out there, explaining things and teaching things. If you came here, Adam, and did internal training for my staff and it was the greatest internal training ever, it doesn't really count for Gabe. He doesn't care.
That's fair.
I do care.
Which, by the way, why are both of you not aces?
Oh my God! Oh, Holly's on me for that all the time. It's been since they came out.
Another thing a BCE can do is I can help you study, I can help you learn the material, and I can proctor your exam for you.
I know. It's come up several times. Holly's on me bad about that the last couple of years. She's like, because we don't have a BCE around here that could proctor, so we would need somebody to do it remotely. So maybe that's your first gig for us.
Yep.
I haven't been in the industry for 5 years.
Is it 5 or is it used to be 7?
I think it's 5, but maybe it's 7. I haven't been in the industry for either 5 nor 7.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm going for it though.
Of course.
When I get it, when I get that experience.
So last year you faced Hamilton Allen from Fox in your first round matchup, and you took him. Your social media was over the top compared to his. Like, no problem. You were a 6 seed. He was an 11 seed. Sylvia had a first round matchup against Glenn Ramsey from Rollins, who was a 14 seed, which is actually probably really low for him.
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, even though he's not out there a lot in social media, he's definitely very involved.
Yep, and then that made a second round matchup with you and Sylvia. So that's where
I should be Sylvia. Sorry, Sylvia, if you're listening, but I mean, I'm sorry.
No. And that's the other thing. So something I noticed about this is BCEs are kind of nerdy and kind of competitive.
Uncompetitive, yeah.
Totally.
Like me and Sylvia, we're both extroverted, outgoing personalities. So like I'm a board gamer at heart. I'm a video gamer. I'm super competitive. I was a swimmer growing up, swam competitively. So yes.
Yeah. Now what's going to happen is you're gonna meet her. You're gonna go to like West Coast Rodent Academy someday. It'll be like 10 years from now, and you're gonna be like, Sylvia, we need a rematch.
I was texting Sylvia yesterday. We actually talked quite a bit. I'm not mad. I'm happy for Sylvia. So yes, but I will do a rematch. Yes, I think what we need to do is like a lot of these different reality shows. They end up having like an all-star, edition.
Oh, okay.
Like after we go through like 4 or 5 seasons, we need to have an all-star season where you bring somebody like me back, and then you have Sylvia in there. You have some of like the different ones.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it was hard. I sat around this weekend with like 40 names, and I researched all of them. And I'm trying to pick 15 of them, and then we have a play-in game with 2 aces for the 16 seed. And it's hard. Like you're looking at them and being like, okay, I got to pick between these two or these, and cross someone off the list, put someone on the list. And it's tough. Just for the sake of fun, I wanted to keep a couple from last year, so we have a little consistency of a few that were still doing great this year and doing a lot of outreach, earn their way back in to try again, and then some newcomers in there as well. But I think it's a fun thing. We've had a lot of great response, so I think it's something fun.
I mean, I could even see us starting a website for this, and then like anybody who's in the running, we get their bios and we have their bios up.
Ooh, can we start some betting? Is that legal? Can we do that?
Oh my God! You gotta fill out your brackets and the $5 pool at the office.
You at least get to gamble back on the mainland. There's no gambling in Hawaii.
So gambling? Oh my gosh!
No gambling.
Wow, weird.
Crazy.
I know it's rough. I guess I just have to go paddleboard. That's my pastime.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Awesome, Adam. This was fantastic. Gabe, anything else you got?
No, it's great. Thanks so much for coming on. Good to see you.
Yeah, I would just say if I'm going to end this real quick, I just want to say if anybody wants to reach out to me again, my website is namedatbug.com. That's D as in dog. All right. All the branding is the same. You can personally reach out to me at 352-408-6122. Again, that's 352-408-6122. And aloha from Hawaii. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Coast to Coast with Andy, can't pronounce his last name, and Gabe Seymour. Join me, Pete Chopin, probably another 5 years from now when they invite me on again.